Are you ready to take charge of your well-being? Well, if you said yes, then this is the show for you. Welcome to Optimal Living KW. I'm Kelly Wagner, and Optimal Living is all about showing you how to stop just surviving in life and how to start thriving. How? By taking an integrated approach to well-being. At Optimal Living, we recognize that there are many factors that come into play in terms of your well-being and your levels of personal satisfaction with your life. And we look at how those factors are interconnected. You'll learn steps that you can take today as you start on your journey towards a more holistic understanding of your health and your happiness. The focus of today's show is on our spiritual health. Now, regardless of what spiritual path you're on, if any path at all, we all have a part of us that we commonly refer to as our spirit. It's that part of you that ignites when you do something that you love, or maybe that part of you that you refer to when you talk about following your gut or your intuition. You may also think of spirit in terms of having a connection with something larger than yourself, whether you call that something humanity or God, the universe or Allah, any other name, or even that which cannot be named. On today's Optimal Living, we take a look at the idea of spirit and how our spiritual practices influence our well-being, our happiness, and our peace of mind. Our first guest is a man who's done some fascinating research on the psychology of religion. Dr. Christopher Ross is a clinical psychologist and an associate professor at the University of Wilfrid Laurier University. You don't say the University of Wilfrid Laurier.
That's right.
Well, thanks for making time for us today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So maybe we could start with some of the parallels that you've found in terms of someone's psychological development and their spiritual development.
Well, yes, there's the assumption in most theories of personality and personal development that the ego is as good as it gets. You know, that part of us that is nuanced and is not concerned with just yes or no, black or white, but can make proportional judgments. And, you know, that's founded in Freud's work. He was once asked to summarize what psychoanalysis is. Well, it's where id was, ego shall be, where that sort of raging yearning is replaced by something that's more rational and proportional. But religion addresses something that's beyond that. That the ego is just the start in our life. Okay. And the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung thought that we have an engine on, in Switzerland they have the funicular railway where you have an engine on the back and on the front.
Yes.
And that, sure, we're driven by certain things in the first part of our life from the back, but then something else takes over, pulling us forward to wholeness.
So in terms of psychological development, it maybe is that ego part of you that's pushing you in the beginning, but then something larger than that.
Yes. And Jung distinguished that. He said, well, it's the ego that gets developed in the first 3 decades of our life, and then we have the opportunity to move towards the self, that is this integrating, balancing function towards wholeness or healing.
Okay. And speaking of Jung, that's good to lead into the next item that we wanted to talk about. And so many people are familiar with the Myers-Briggs type indicator of personality, which is based on Jungian theory.
That's right.
So maybe you could give us just a very brief overview for those that might not know what the Myers-Briggs indicator covers and how personality type influences spirituality.
Oh yes, well, probably the best known distinction that the Myers-Briggs and Jung uses is extroversion, introversion. That doesn't seem to be so relevant for religion. Then there's sensing and intuition, how we like to notice things or process information. I'm an intuitive. I see the holes and then look for the parts later, and the sensing type looks at details.
Right.
And
okay.
that seems to be quite important in terms of what people look for or don't look for in religion.
Sure. Let's come back to that. You've mentioned the first two criteria.
Yes,
what are the other parts?
well, the other ones is how we make judgments, whether it's on the basis of the heart,
okay,
engaged based on what we value, or whether we are thinking types, like I am, where we make judgments based on what's consistent and logical.
So that's the thinking versus the feeling.
Yes, and then the last one, which was the refinement that Isabel Briggs Myers made to Jung's system, which is, well, whether we're introvert or extrovert, we have to come to terms with the outside world, especially in Western culture.
Sure.
And so it makes a difference whether it's a form of judgment we use on the outside, you know, with a preference for closure and kind of the joy of scheduling, or a perceiving type who likes to keep her options open.
Okay, so how do those are different aspects of our personality, but would that influence maybe the connection you feel with your religious background or your selection of a spiritual practice?
I think it does. We find that there are more sensing types in the work I've done among Catholics and conservative, what you might say, conservative Protestants.
Okay.
There are more sensing types there, and whereas in liberal Protestant churches we find there are more intuitives.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, so there's a kind of a draw based on the atmosphere of the church.
Are there parallels between personality type and maybe Eastern versus Western philosophy? Do you find more?
Well, we haven't really done studies on other groups. I've done one very small study on a group that I was involved with for a while, a Buddhist group, and we found there were more intuitives there too, but there was also more sensing types, and I think it helps make sense of some of the conflict that you find within religious groups, because people are there, they're sitting next to each other, but they're there for different things.
Certainly.
And for different reasons.
Yeah, with every branch of every different religion, there are people that may be more left-wing or right-wing, or maybe people, like you said, who are there and experiencing a different experience of it based on where their personality is coming from. So how can understanding that, the links between psychology and personality and spiritual development, how can that help people improve their well-being?
Well, I think if you're in a religious group, not to beat yourself up if you don't necessarily resonate to what's emphasized in your particular religious group or the religious leader in your local setting, because he or she may be emphasizing, say if you're a sensing type, kind of details, because sensing types basically are drawn to religion as a way of right living, whereas intuitives construe the world in complex ways, and whatever you think religion is, I think one of a non-controversial definition is it's a complex system of symbols. So an intuitive, if he or she is drawn to religion, it's more of a mirroring of their own complexity. Wonderful. So it's really, they're there for different reasons.
Yeah, so interesting. Thank you so much. You can find out more about Dr. Ross's research and about the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator by visiting our website at optimallivingkw.com. We'll be back with more Optimal Living in just a moment. Whether you think of the word spirit as being a part of yourself, as something greater than yourself, or some combination of the two, there's some universal ideas about how having a healthy connection to spirit can help with emotional well-being. And here to tell us more is author of the book, The Whole You, Healing and Transformation Through Energy Awareness, Tanis Day. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Kelly.
And Tanis, you're also the founder, I want to mention, of the School of Energy Enlightenment in Kitchener, Ontario. That's right. Great person to talk to on this subject.
Thanks.
Let's start with energy. Science tells us that everything is energy. So maybe we can start by talking about the human energy fields that you work with.
Alrighty. So really the thing about spirit is that it is both part of us and something greater than us. That the individuated human self starts with our physical body, and those atoms are all just energy too. So we have, let's draw a simple diagram here.
Sure.
So if we have the idea that we have a physical body, here's our cute little guy, here's our little physical person.
Yeah.
And the whole body is made of atoms. The atoms are all just energy. There's a lot of empty space in each atom, and it only makes up about 4 or 5% of the total of the universe is made up out of actual physical atomic reality, but it's all still just energy.
Right.
So with each one of our lifetimes, to move to the human energy fields, one lifetime we have a physical body and we have an emotional field that gives us the ability to feel everything. Happy, sad, delighted, disappointed, angry. Everything is felt with this field of energy. It flows through the fluids in our physical body, and it gives us that sensation of being able to feel things. We also have a mental body, particularly large around our heads where we do all of our thinking.
Yes.
But it also exists around the rest of the body. And so our one lifetime is made up of physical action, emotional feeling, and mental ideas and thinking and imagination. That's one example, one personal iteration of humanity. So we are also collectively a species, and that species also has a field, something that has been called the collective unconscious, or this sort of idea. That's also a field of energy. It's a bit bigger than the personality level. Usually if people are talking about the aura, they're actually talking about this field. So the edge of your soul field is sort of about this big.
Okay.
And that high above your head. In the chakra systems, it's chakras 7, 8, and 9 are in the soul field.
So that's something that we emit, but also is transmitted to us, the energy field?
Yes, that's right. It's really running through the body. It's probably linked with DNA. It brings forward the whole history of humanity. So all the stuff that we've done, all our collective past is flowing to us through our own soul fields. And so it has ideas of our own disposition. Are you an adventurer, a writer, a musician? You know, if someone has a musical soul, they're musical no matter what family they're brought up in. And that's sort of that soul disposition, a person who's more introverted or more extroverted, those kinds of things are part of the soul field.
Okay.
And people who are interested in past life experience, it's in the soul field that people would be accessing those earlier stories. Okay, now both of those fields are human. One is the whole history of humanity, the other is this version of human self, but we're flowing in from the big spiritual dimension, the unity consciousness, or however you want to relate to it. And we actually
like the
have
human spirit, kind of larger than that?
Yeah,
though?
more like human is in here, but it's that spirit consciousness. Call it God, call it love, call it the universe. It's a big field of energy that everyone is connected through, and it flows right through our bodies, and it flows between us and amongst us when we have that wonderful spiritual feeling of connecting in peace, calmness, compassion, support, nurturance. That's actually that we have connected with this big field of energy that flows right through our bodies, through our beings. And so the idea that spirit is part of us, yes, this spiritual energy is here in the form, and we can learn how to live through the spirit energy, and we can use it to help us with our emotional feelings, with transforming our beliefs, and with manifesting our true, authentic soul self. Right. And it's also outside us and bigger than us, and it includes all life everywhere.
Okay, so it is both. So how does having an awareness then of these energy fields and how they work together, how does that help heal emotional things? If your emotional field is kind of troubled with something going on or is feeling particularly happy, how does that help us to maybe look bigger on those issues?
Well, the awareness that the fields exist and learning how to connect into them gives you new tools for being able to live your life really well. When you are in a darker feeling, when you're in something that's causing suffering, you can connect with your own higher energies and bring that spiritual knowledge, wisdom, that sage advice to whatever the moment is, and make different choices. Knowing knowledge of the fields, knowing how to access the fields, provides new options and new choices. So it allows us to actually bring that compassionate love and nurturing support into the moments of everyday life.
Sure. Okay. And so how would your approach, I mean, oftentimes people who might be going through emotional struggles might think to go to a counselor or a therapist or something like that. How does your approach compare to something like that?
All right. When a person goes for therapeutic counseling of that type, they're talking and feeling in their bodies. When they hit an old belief, they're going to replace it with a better idea, but they may not be replacing it with the unconditional love, wisdom that comes from the higher energies.
Okay.
Knowledge of the fields gives us more tools, and allowing the higher self to be the advisor makes that location in our field and in our mind really radiant with the higher consciousness.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Thanks so much, Tanis. I really appreciate you making time for us today.
My delight. Thank you.
Good. After the break, we'll be paying a visit to the Encounter World Religions Centre in Guelph, Ontario, where we're going to take a look at what the different and varied world religions have in common when it comes to our well-being. Stay tuned for more Optimal Living. Well, whether your religious beliefs are from the East, the West, or anywhere in between, your worldview certainly influences the way that you conduct yourself day to day. Our next guest is going to talk with us about some of the ways that world religions contribute to our well-being. J.W. Windland has over 40 years of experience in the study, teaching, and first-hand encounter of world religions. He's a comparative mythologist and the founder of the Encounter World Religions Centre in Guelph. JW, thanks for having us to this amazing location. It's obvious from looking around your office that you've had encounters with the whole range of the world's religions. And maybe we can start with talking about, regardless of what spiritual path someone is on, what have you seen in terms of how having a healthy sense of the sacred can contribute to our well-being?
Well, I think the sacred is a way of expressing an experience of meaning, a way of grasping what life could be or should be. And how that's understood then depends upon the culture and needs of a particular society within a particular time. Oftentimes those traditions out of the Middle East understand that in monotheistic ways. There are other traditions out of India that understand that in a monistic way, which is not one entity but one reality. And then there are others who understand it as polytheism, non-theism, and a whole range of ways of understanding.
Yeah, lots of different perspectives on what the sacred is.
Right.
How would that translate to someone who maybe does not have a non-theistic view of the sacred?
Well, somebody perhaps who doesn't identify with any sort of religious or spiritual tradition would understand the sacred, I would think, or redefine it in non-religious terms. We hear people today speak about the earth as sacred, or for some family may be sacred, or you have an experience of, and in religious terms we would call it sacred, but perhaps non-religiously we may call it some other sorts of experience of awe or being lifted out of one's self through a piece of music, through art, through poetry. It's an experience of meaning.
Okay, interesting. Wow. And some of the research and things that you've done and found have to do with these perennial themes that you talk about in world religions. So regardless of what tradition background you're looking at, you've found that there are some themes among the world religions that contribute to well-being. Maybe let's talk about some of those.
Sure. And I've called them perennial themes simply because in the same way in your garden you have some flowers that come up every year, that always come up. And so there are particular themes that come up in every religion, or for those who may not identify with any kind of religion. A few of those perhaps might be the idea of social. Religion has a theme of community. Yes. Religions like groups. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because humanness likes groups. We find a sense of well-being by living in community. And religions supply a type of community wholeness. Yes. Through dress, through foods, through particular greetings, by the observing of certain celebrations or rituals throughout a year.
So it's that sense, that feeling of belonging somewhere.
That's exactly right. It's a sense of belonging, of worth, of value, of identity, not only personal identity, but group identity as well.
Okay. What about one of the things that draws my attention is the senses in world religions?
Yeah. All of the world's religions have an encounter with senses. You can often tell what tradition you're visiting by the smell of the room. Yeah. The incense of a Hindu temple will differ from the incense of a Buddhist temple, or of the smell of a sacred space after Mass, or for the Orthodox tradition, the Divine Liturgy. We have an engagement with senses in sight. You can go to Hindu temples, Buddhist temples, and see hundreds, if not thousands, of images around the room, all of which mean something.
Sure.
But if you go to a mosque, you would see no images.
Right.
And that kind of sense also has meaning that only God creates.
Sure. And a lot of our art and music come from religious experience. So that whole human experience of using our senses to experience the world, experience the sacred, it's kind of part of celebrating life.
Sure. And it makes it real. It takes that which can be seen and heard and felt and tasted and smelled. It takes those sorts of physical experiences and uses them as metaphors or a transformation of time and space to experience that sacred.
Wonderful. And service is another aspect, I think, that's often associated with religious communities doing service work for other people. And so regardless of what tradition you're from, that's certainly an aspect of many of the world's religions.
It is, and it's also part of that idea that well-being is in connectedness. Well-being is in community, and the idea of service is that we do not live for ourselves, that we live in community and for the sake of others. And every tradition will have some sort of outlet for charity work, volunteerism. Some of that might be obligatory, that you're required to give a certain percentage or amount, but it's the idea that well-being comes through connectedness.
Beautiful. And I think a lot of those experiences too find themselves in secular or non-religious ways of life too. You have those elements of community and of service.
I think that's because these perennial themes that I've identified here are religious themes, but they are also human themes. And so we find them not only in religious and spiritual tradition, but we find them in human living because they address human needs, not just religious needs.
JW, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You can find out more about the people, places, practices, and philosophies of our world by visiting our website at optimallivingkw.com. Well, what an amazing show we've had today, with lots of interesting information and greater understanding about the ways that we can improve our spiritual health and the ways that a healthy spirit contributes to our well-being. Remember, you too can achieve spiritual peace and find a way to ignite your spirit by taking an integrated approach to well-being. Because all the different aspects of wellness are interconnected, you'll find that taking positive steps in one area of your life will influence other parts of your life too. Be sure to watch the whole Optimal Living series to see how it all fits together, and email me your comments and your questions by visiting the website at optimallivingkw.com, where you'll find more resources to help you take charge of your well-being. I'm Kelly Wagner, and until next time, live well and be well.